let me introduce our next speaker. Her name is Sanjukta Bhanja, and she received her career proposal from the CCF division. And now she's going to tell us her experience.
Okay, so first of all, there are many resources available. And I actually searched in Google. There was career proposal tips. There is like that many hits, okay? So there are many, many resources available, okay? And one of the best that I found is here. So, and it is written by multiple faculty members. So it's a perspective of many, many people. And here, this is almost like a personal story. So I have a slide that explains it. So, I mean, it's very experiential. So you have to take it with large grain of salt. So this is my data point. I was third time lucky. So I had a lot of experience on this. So between my first and second, I felt that I made significant progress. You know, I evolved. But between second and third, I mean, it was basically very same proposal. So I'm going to say a little bit. Certain things did change. For example, my figures changed. I spent, like, you know, it's very crucial. It's very crucial to, you know, not have small figures, and because a lot of time panelists are in a hurry, you know, and they're, you know, so they changed, and my publication changed, but the core theme didn't change, okay? So again, I mean, also I'll talk a little bit about the reviews I got. I mean, that made me not change the central theme, because my second times the reviews were very good, but they felt it cannot be done. So they said that it's not doable in 5 years. So, but they were not negative on the theme. So that's why I sort of stuck to the, you know, the main theme and sort of tried to prove that it can be done, and had some preliminary results to support that. So this is the self-assessment from my first one. So it is like the cross-layer modeling between switching and error in VLSI circuits. And it had one major difficulty. It's too close to my PhD work, and this was already funded. I mean, in fact, my advisor was funding at the same time when my career proposal, I mean, getting funded at the same time, so there was overlap there. My teaching plans were established. In fact, I got very good feedback on my teaching plans, but because the research was not adequate, you know, it didn't make it. So one of the first thing I did is I went to, I think this is one of the most valuable, like $250 that I spent on going to NSF and meeting Dr. Basu. I mean, one of the most precious, because I opened with my laptop and I showed the type of problems I'm working on, and then he gave some ideas, and he kind of said that you need to have a little more, you know, diversity, even though in a central theme, because you're launching a career and not just one research problem. So you have heard this before, so I'm just going to skip that. And then I already was working on nanocomputing and CMOS simultaneously, and I was trying to publish, you know, in good journals and things like that. So between first and second, and then this was my second attempt. So I had two core themes. One was on learning automata and Bayesian network, but I was doing quantum cellular automata. I was having CMOS. The whole thing was under the same umbrella of studying trade-off between reliability and error and power. So this has been a central theme in my area for some time now. In fact, recent like call for failure resilient system kind of resonates with that. So it was in the right direction. And then I found external mentors. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, because they were very instrumental for me. Some of them also wrote my tenure letters. So there are various reasons that you should seek them, I mean, seek help from them. So this was my third attempt. And so between second and third, I again called Dr. Basu and I said, what happened? Because the reviews, you know, I had a couple of excellent, maybe one like good, you know, how it didn't make it. And then he kind of said that people felt that it was too much. So I said, okay, I mean, so I'm going to publish and maybe make it more credible, you know. And so that 1 year, I mean, by the time it got rejected, I think it was January. And till that July, I just focused on publishing and changing my figures and showing my proposal to a proofreader and getting some feedback from my colleagues that are in the same area, things like that. So, and I had some letters from industry that kind of said, and this was not like, but in no means like we will fund this or something. It was like it's an exciting area and we want to see how it progresses, that type of letter, like sort of very encouraging letters. And then 2 of my peers, they read the proposal and they suggested few non-technical but very critical flow changes, like, so this particular section is hanging and, things like that, So when you are writing, you are immersed in it, Sometimes you are not having the right perspective of a panelist. So if you get it reviewed by someone that is a panelist in your area, sometimes you get to see those points, okay? And then my pictures became much, much better. And then there are this reduce some dimensions to cover more depth. This part I'm going to talk more about later, so I will come back to that. So this was the feedback given to me. So again, some guidelines, and this is a very famous picture, and it's from Thailand. It's very common in Southeast Asia. It's like 6 blind people are looking at an elephant, and depending on where they looked, they had different ideas about what they're looking at. So that's it's very subjective. Everybody experiences it differently. So you have to make your own judgment, and but this should only help you. I mean, that's the goal. So in research planning, I feel that this is something that helped me, is that I started working on my preliminary data and I started publishing, and some of which that was not published, I started to make those data available a little bit in the proposal. So answering back to this question, my papers were maybe between first and best. When in the third time, it's not the last paper, but it's definitely not the first paper. So I mean, so it was somewhere between first and best when I got the award. And so what happens if you have publication in a competitive place, then that gives confidence to the panelist who is not exactly working in this area. And this is particularly true in those of you that are working in emerging technologies, because there are plasmonics, magnetics, I mean, one panelist is not supposed to know all the other areas. So it's very, very critical. And then tasks should be closely coupled, because some of the proposals that I have read, it appeared that this is like basically a collection of 4 proposals put together in 15 pages. So, and it makes each one of them very, shallow and less rigorous. So this is the second thing. So you have to have a balance between the near-term and far-term goals. And then I already talked about that. It should not read like decoupled 4 ideas or 5 ideas for 5 years of funding. It should have like a common theme, okay? And then it should have the right balance of fundamentals and significance. And this is another thing. If it sounds like it's very sort of trivial, like you are adding A, B, C, and D that are already known, then somehow it doesn't, sell that well to panelists. Like it has to have a non-translational angle, and this is already discussed by the previous speaker. You should have a balance between the risk and the feasibility. I mean, because all the panelists were there before, so they know how much can be done with the amount of course load that you will be dealing with in your university, So pay some attention. This is another thing, educational research, and this is very much program sensitive, because I actually served in College of Engineering career panel we had inside our college. And I noticed that in some of the programs, education and research is like 50-50, like maybe 60-40, Yes. So they have a lot of emphasis, and I was shocked, because there were these faculties that are proposing to do a magic show, and I mean, it was humongous amount of effort in some divisions that, so it's very sensitive to, program. So you should talk to your program manager to see in your own area what's the general consensus, okay? So in my case, I was already working. I had a TUS grant later on my education thing. So one of the few ideas that I think are not, I don't see, is you can always use some, validate somebody else's work in your classroom. That is usually not that time consuming, like some established like TUS proposal or some, like suppose I was dealing with like active learning with sensory components. So there are a lot of instruments. So what you can do is borrow an instrument and sort of, in your own classroom, you are anyway going to classroom, might as well like plan a little and get some data and say, okay, in VLSI classrooms, this works better than this, something like that. Some evaluation, some assessment component if you can add. I mean, maybe a table, it shouldn't take too much space because you don't have too much space, but you can always work on that. And then the last point is very, very crucial, is create a portfolio in teaching. This is also important for tenure because we usually neglect this completely. And right before mid-tenure, we kind of wake up. And if you have that, you will see that you have a lot of data point. Maybe you have done a mid-semester assessment and changed something after that, or maybe you saw that this particular learning style didn't work at all. Those data points, if you document them, it will be much easier to do a career proposal on that. I mean, you don't have to spend, my point is you can plan a little bit ahead so that you don't have that very traumatic last 1.5 months where you're trying to like add some cool ideas in your teaching plan. Just document whatever you are doing and work on assessment. I think it was already mentioned, it is very critical. And then outreach, so there are a lot of local resources now in your university. I'm pretty convinced about this. And in my university, we had like an RET site grant, and I had worked with one of the teachers. Then I go to like Great American Teach-ins. I mean, whatever you do, try to like, and maybe you can give a talk in a local museum on your research, things like that, like document them so that it doesn't look all like future tense. Like I would do this, I would do that, so just say I have done this, and I will continue this, and this is the new idea that I'm going to work on, something like that. And then if you have a community college around your, area, maybe you can talk to one of the faculties there and try to do something jointly that will help. And then this is something that I have done, so I put it, I participated in Sloan and McKnight conferences. And so basically get some track record. So for example, I'm the, yes? Sloan, McKnight is for African American and minority students. So in Florida, they have a big, they organize conference. So you have to see what is there in Arizona. And Sloan is for, it started as a Hispanic groups, but it is also for women, underrepresented, and minorities. So, and then CRAW is one of the consortium that addresses women issues. So you can attend some of them, you get lots of ideas, and so it doesn't look that you are just fishing up some words from NSF's guideline of broader impact. So that's like easily understood. So if you get some letters from people who have already worked with, those will be much strong letters, not like template letters. So that's something that maybe it's just get it. If you are geared towards this, I think maybe you are already doing this, so just document them. And then this is something that I kind of did once I saw that my first attempt was failed. So what I did is I targeted a few conferences where I routinely went. Every year I went. So what happens, you get a common set of people that you can network. Suppose going to DAC or ICCAD in our area, you have like 1,000 or 1,500 attendees, you don't get that contact. But if you target a conference in your area that's like 150, 100 attendees, then you have much more one-to-one contact. In fact, two of the peers that read my proposal are both from, this, I'm talking about GLS. Later on, I became program chair. I mean, this connection helps you also in service, and because you are routinely going to that same conference, people see you and trying to kind of, network with you. So then I had few external mentors, and at least two of them were recent career award winners from my division, so that helped. They gave me the current perspective, and then those two are already discussed. And then this is the thing that when I was in a panel, I feel that panelists are very busy, and so they should not have to surf through the all 15 pages to find out what exactly you are trying to say. So particularly important are intellectual merit, research objectives, and educational goals. Those things, I mean, you should have a word that it starts with those. Intellectual merit of this proposal is 1, this, 2, this, 3, this. Like, so, I mean, when they're writing the review, it becomes easier for them, and they also get a, sorry about this, but, you know, I mean, because I served in the panel, I saw that some proposals, like, are right away, like, addressing the panelists. Much more, I mean, they're doing a good job, of course, describing their research problem, but they're also looking at the panelists' point of view. You know, but broader impact of this proposal is 1, this, 2, this, 3, this, and then you see, okay, it's all in one place. I can, you know, so, and then it is clearly you have to. I mean, if your proposal's 6th page, 7th page, you are introducing very key concept, then my advice would be serve in a panel. You just see how you read others' proposals. You know, that's very critical. You have to introduce key concept in the first 2 pages and preferably in summary. Okay, so, and you can like sort of support, you know, your concepts, but you know, it really helps. And then the last one I already said that most proposals have almost no prior work in the broader impact and education component. So maybe you can do a little bit that will separate you from others. I mean, I don't want to argue whether it's necessary, whether it's not necessary, but it's definitely, if you have a good research plan and you back it up with the other 2, it's definitely going to separate you from the pool. So this we already discussed, so I'm going to kind of skip this. Okay, this is another thing. It should be really exciting. You know, by the time maybe you wrote the proposal, maybe you have worked and you are yourself seeing some dark sides, you know, that cannot come in the writing, that cannot come. It's true with all areas, right? You work more and you see, oh my God, this tremendous bottleneck. I will tell you because this quantum cellular automata had that. The more I worked on it, the more I saw that, you know, how difficult it is to fabricate and to model. So when you are writing that, if that comes in, you know, then you have to write the proposal on a different idea where your excitement is the key thing here, you know. You cannot, you know, be negative on that. And then avoid like laundry list of tasks, you know, make them coupled and make a case as soon as possible. And this, by as soon as possible, I mean in summary. You have to make a case in summary. And then do not introduce a key excitement at 5th page, because if you see the readability kind of first few pages, very large readability. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th is sort of, you know, I mean, it has a lot of detailed on equations and stuffs and very detailed graphs and stuff like that. And then again, 12, 13, 14 is very important. There you are saying long-term objectives, plans, prior supports, you know, how you're going to mentor. So it's not equally read, okay? So that's why, I mean, you need to say why, I mean, you can have lots of rigor. You know, NSF proposals are rarely without rigor, but then it needs to be justified in page 1 or 2. Otherwise, people have already made decision. That's the thing. So support letter. So I had really good support letter. Not many, but maybe 2 or 3. But I was working with them. So their letters were not like. So here, I mean, I didn't want to write it in text, but sometimes we have this tendency of drafting the support letter for someone, right? So that is a big no-no. I mean, and I didn't want to write this. So, I mean, sometimes support letters are so big, comes with so much details that, you know, it kind of provokes like worries, you know. So make my meaningful, really collaborate with them and then ask for support. Then it becomes valid support letters, you know. So this is, I'm going to skip this, lot of discussion on this already. And actually, one of the feedback I got from one of my mentors was that you have a very strong 20-page proposal, because when I was writing, I couldn't condense it properly. So I thought of getting a feedback on the 20-page one. And then as soon as I got done to 15-page, I sent him again, and he was disappointed with the 15-page ones. He said, oh, now everything is looking half a page. You don't, I mean, you know, so you have to kind of maybe worry about removing some of the things to, so that balance is very critical. So, and then this is something that is very personal, because sometimes it has happened to me that I sent a paper, and once I saw the paper in IEEE Explore, I was shocked. Did it happen to any one of you? Like, I was like, I wrote this paper? That mode. Because when you are writing, you are in this zone. So sometimes you are not making sense. So, like pause. It's very important. You write, then you pause, and then you look back, whether you are emphasizing the right things or, I mean, actually 2-3 times this has happened to me. So now even before I send camera ready, I kind of pause. And then I read it, try to read it, because, you are in that zone, you are in a hurry, this deadline, you send something, and then, so give some time to the editing. And don't continuously edit it. You pause and then edit. So that really helped me. And these are the helps I got. And so I got some proofreader to read it, and then one of my department, one person used to write very good 3D pictures and draw. So I asked to get some suggestions. And then the most important help came from my ex-dean, who was currently in NCSU, and he was also in NSF, Louis Martin Vega. He kind of read a little bit, first 2-3 pages, and said, how is it going to change in the VLSI industry? And I didn't know how to answer that question. And then immediately I got that feedback that it's not, cutting that significance. It's not groundbreaking, So, so those are very important help that one needs to get, I think. And then there are certain untrue assumptions. And then one of them I already discussed, that all the details will be like word 0 to word n will be read with equal importance. That's not true. And then you need to, some people think that they have to have 5 innovation, each innovation per year, some sort of algorithm. Those things are not true, okay? And then this is another thing. The NSF guidelines can sometimes change. So when you are doing it multiple times, look back the current one. Maybe the support letter has now have to be 2 pages. Maybe before it was 1 page and things like that. So one thing in the support letter, if you are like from a school like mine, try to negotiate a release time, because it is documented. If you are teaching 2+2 courses, try to negotiate a release time in the when the chairman is writing that letter. So they have to, then you get a little bit break to do research, And then some people are like, oh, formatting is not important. But sometimes you can have a panelist that will look and say, oh, because I have seen one in one of the panel, I'm like, oh, this person have really seen that the margins are not right, but some people are very meticulous. So you can have one of them and, so. And then final draft, this is another thing. I think that you should get one of your students to read the summary and just the figures. Just let them read the summary and then figures and the captions and see if it tells a story. Because judgments are made very quickly, So what happens, you take the first summary and then you just, So I do that for the papers also, and it always, and then do a good overview pictures, and then this is, I can skip, already mentioned. Yeah, this is another thing. You should definitely do that. I will conclude my talk with this one, because when you see yourself as a panelist, you just see the effort you put in, then, you will appreciate how to write your own proposal much better. Thank you.